Good morning, lovely nines. Right, buddies, here we are in probably our very last lesson of trigonometry. Maybe there'll be one more. I'll wait until I can actually talk to you guys on the Google Classroom first before we decide if we want an extra lesson on this or not. But this could be our last lesson on trig. Now, I hope that you're all feeling like you're experts at it. I know it's a brand new topic this year, so I've been really impressed actually with how quickly and how well you've come along. Like your homework has looked good, and yeah, I can tell you really get it. I can tell that you remember Sokotoa now, and I hope this will be the real thing when I actually get to see you guys again in person. I wonder if you guys remember what sine and cosine tan actually means about the ratios of the two sides, but even if you don't, that's okay. You guys are really good at using them, and that's cool. So for our very last lesson, buddies, the title is Trig Word Problems. Now, here's the thing. You might not believe me yet, but trig is one of the most important math skills, like right up there with algebra and right up there with things like Pythagoras' theorem. Trig is critically important, my buddies, and it's not just for maths. Science, especially physics, uses trig like you would not believe. Like you'll see a question, and it'll be a physics question, but it'll just be like, oh, bish bash bosh, whack a sine in it, whack a cos in it, and they kind of end up everywhere. And that's the same as well with engineering, because if you're doing anything with machinery and stuff, anything to do with an angle, you're going to definitely need it for engineering as well, and then quite clearly in maths we use trig a lot too, so it's a really important thing. So our goal today is to see some word questions, and word questions are just, like, as you know, they're just a practical question that's written down that uses the thing that you've learned, but doesn't outright tell you how to do it. It's not actually super tricky, but it's actually applying your trig skills rather than just practicing them. It's actually applying them, which is cool. Cool! Right, so I'm just going to give you one question today, and that's going to be in order for you to have all the whole rest of the period to practice, get loads of work done for me, and I'll be really excited to have a look at it when you get it all done. So let's try. Cool, cool. Okay, it says, two people, A and B, are on opposite sides of a tower. So that's got to be a person, and that's got to be a person. The tower is 24 meters tall, 24 meters high, I should say, which is there. It's 12 meters wide, which is there, so there's the tower. The angle of elevation of from A to the top of the tower, F, so that's the top of the tower, is 32. And the angle of elevation from B to the top of the tower, G, so up there, is 24, and it wants you to find the distance AF. Cool. Now it's given us a picture this time, which is a result. What would you do if there wasn't a picture, though, my buddies? Yeah, that's it. You'd have to draw one, right? Like, it can be rubbish, and it can be a sketch and stuff, but you really do need to have a picture in these practical questions, so a quick sketch of a picture is ideal. You should sketch this picture, too, so if you want to push pause and get this copied into your book, that'd be ace. So push pause, go. Cool. And so hopefully you get the idea that this guy here is actually a building, okay? So it's actually, this is a really good use of trig, and this is actually used, they actually do use trig for this quite a lot. You can figure out how tall mountains are, you can figure out how tall buildings are, and you can figure out how tall, like, anything is really, as long as you know how many paces you are away from it. Sorry, excuse me, guys. As long as you know how many paces away you are from the building, and you can measure the angle, which you totally can do. They use something called a clinometer for that, and it's just, it's essentially a protractor with like a rubber stopper underneath it that tells you what the angle is, like when it dangles. So it's not a complicated device, but if you can figure out an angle and how many paces away you are, you can figure out how tall something is. So if you didn't want to walk to the top of a mountain, but you did want to walk to the base of it, you could have a pretty good estimate as how tall the mountain would be. Cool. Anyway, it says, find the distance AF. Okay? Now, here's what I'd suggest. AF is going to be from A to F, so it's this side here, and there's nothing on it. So I would absolutely give it a letter. Let's call it X. Oops, yeah, call it X, or any letter you like, but I'm going to call it X, okay? It didn't give us a variable, but we'll just make one up. And we're trying to find the distance to that. Right, buddies? What do you think we have to do? Cool. Well, if you said that, yeah, if you consider the left-hand triangle only, you actually know that it's 24 meters tall, this left-hand triangle, from there to there. It's x wide and there's 32. Well, we can do trig on this left triangle, my buddies. So let's do it. Let's do some trig on this left triangle. So step one, as you guys know, is you label the triangle up. So you're ready? Here we go. This side here is the opposite. This side here, hypotenuse, because it's opposite to the right angle. This side here, adjacent. You guys are probably getting to the stage where you're nearly ready to skip labeling the triangle and go straight to the first step that I'm about to write down. But you can always label the triangle. It's always a good shout. I usually ask year 9s to do it, but I make people stop doing it when they are in year 10 and above. So I bet some of you are probably at that stage. You're like, oh, I don't want to label the triangle anymore. I'm going to say you probably don't have to, as long as you promise me you're really good at it. Okay, here's the first thing you actually do have to write down. It's O and H. So sound it out. Saw, ka, toa. Well, it's saw, because it's O and H, which means it's sine. So sine 32 is equal to O, which is 24, or H, which is X. Cool. Oh dear, it's one of the hard ones. The X is on the bottom. How do you get X off the bottom? What do we do to both sides again? Well, yeah, that's it. Times both sides by x. Fractions are awkward. Let's get rid of them. You're left then on this side with x sine 32. And on this side, just 24. Cool. So to get x by itself now, what do we do? Yeah, that's it. Divide both sides by sine 32. Sine 32. And you go, and that means it's just x left over on this side. And the rest of this is a calculator jobby, so let's do it. 24 over sine 32 makes a lovely, to three significant figures, 45.3 meters. 45.3 meters, like a boss. Answer to A. Cool. Now, for B, it says, find the distance BG. Okay, this is very nearly the same question. BG is this length here. I've already used X, so I'm going to call this Y. I think you should do this without me. Go on, you do BG, okay? Figure it out all by yourselves. Pause, go. Cool, and you're back, so let's see how you got on. When you label this triangle then, my buddies, this one here, that's opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So we have O and H again. So we're again in sine here. So this time it's going to be sine 24 equals, 24 just to confuse us. O is 24 as well, over Y. What do we do next? Well, you get rid of the fraction. Y sine 24 equals 24. What next? Divide both sides by sine 24. Y equals 24 over sine 24. Final step is the final answer. Let's do it. 24 divided by sine 24 just gives us 59.0 to three significant figures. Remembering the point 0 because we did want three significant figures. And that's the answer to that. Happy days. Final question then, my folks, is just this. Do you see what I mean? It's not too hard. It's just you have to read through and look at the picture a bit better. That's the only difference, really. Find the distance from A to B, so it's the entire length. Okay. I think I'm going to unclutter my picture. I'm going to get rid of the O's and the H's. Oh no, I erased the coloring in of the building. Oh well, it doesn't need coloring in. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all of the purple that I've drawn, okay? Okay, now it wants the distance from A to B. Now, here's what I'm going to say, my buddies. If you want to get the distance A to B, it's got 3 bits to it. It's got the 12 in the middle, but it's also got this bit here, which I'm going to call A, but it's also got this bit here, from here to here, which I'm going to call B. Cool? What do we got to do now then, my buddies? What do we have to do in order to get A and B? Well, you got it. You can either use trig or Pythag to get either one of them. So I don't mind which you use. I'm going to shake it up. I'm going to use trig for the first one and Pythagoras' theorem for the second. How exciting. Okay, so let's do it on the first one. Okay, let's get A. So let's go purple. Let's get A. Get A. Okay. Now, with A, my buddies, I do know X, actually. I know that X is 45.3, and I know that this one's 59.0, but I'm just going to go with the opposite side and the adjacent side. That's what I'm going to go with. Cool. So I'm going to go with TOA. Cool. This is A and O and H. Okay. So TOA. Tan 32 is equal to opposite, which is 24, over adjacent, which is A. Oh no, it's one of the hard ones. They're all the hard ones. I picked only hard ones for you. That's no problem though. Times both sides by A. A tan 32 equals 24. Divide both sides by tan 32. A is 24 over tan 32. Which means that A equals to three significant figures. 24 divided by tan 32. 38.4. Cool. So there's A, 38.4. Cool. Get B. Well, you can use trig again, that'd be no problem at all, but I said I was going to shake it up and use Pythagoras' theorem, so let's do it. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. It's just because I have two of the sides, I don't have to use trig if I don't want to, so let's do it. The long side's 59, so it's 59 squared equals, I'm going to put my B squared first, B squared plus 24 squared. Cool. That means, my buddies, that, let's do it. 59 squared take away 24 squared is going to equal 2905. So on this side I'll have 2905 equaling b squared, which means to get b, all I've got to do is square root that, square root, square root, and it's equals 53.9. 53.9. Cool beans? 53.9. Right then. Now we're ready. We're done. We can answer the question. So, distance. The distance from A to B, AB, is just going to equal, well, 38.4 plus 12, going along the bottom, plus 53.9. 53.9, which equals, my buddies, well, it equals 38.4 plus 12 plus 53.9. I get that it is 104.3. 4.3 meters. So how exciting, my buddies. We've crushed it. You've absolutely nailed it. Your first ever questions of trig word problems. So hope that's okay. I don't think it's too bad. It's not as hard as the Tower of Trig that you've just done. But that's it. So here's what you're going to do. I've attached this worksheet, which is probably too much to do in the remaining time, because it looks like our video is already 13 minutes. Oh no! So it looks like that you probably won't have enough time to do all of these. So I'd like you to do a selection, okay? You have to do steps, so I want it to look a bit like what we've done here, okay? So I'm looking for stuff like this on each question, not just an answer, yeah? So I want you to do this. Go through and do a little bit of a mix. So in other words, maybe do one easy one, or if you found it really hard, do all the easy ones, but like make it suit your ability. So maybe do question 1, and then be like, oh, that was too easy, and then skip to question 7, and be like, oh, that was more challenging. Then into 9, and then you're like, oh, that's still hard. Then you go 13, and you're like, oh yeah, no, now I'm getting it. Then skip to the hard one, do question 2, oh, that's perfect, and then be like, yeah, bring it on year 10-1, and you can try that if you like as well. So I'm just looking for a mix, my buddies. I want to make sure you've done your full, like 50 minutes worth or an hour worth, and that would be brilliant. Cool beans, my buddies. When it's all done, please submit it through Google Classroom this time, not show my homework, and hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to you guys in the live lesson tomorrow. That'd be perfect. So that's it from me. See you next time. Bye, buddies!